Dear Chamber faithful, welcome to Advocacy in Action. I'm Jeremy Field, the Director of Government Affairs for the Boise Metro Chamber of Commerce. I'm very happy to bring you today updates from our policy committee on bills that we're following for the business community. Let's begin with House Bill 436. It went to the governor's desk this week to be signed. It consolidates our personal income tax brackets and lowers on the high end of our personal income tax rates here in the state from 6.5% to 6%. It also brings our corporate income tax rate from 6.5% to 6%, which makes us more competitive with our neighboring states. This is something that Chamber has advocated for a long time, so that we are more competitive on an economic development scale with the states that we compete against when we're bringing business to the state, as well as helping businesses keep more of their revenue to address the supply chain issues that we're seeing now that are raising inflation, as well as to help us compete with a growing salary base for the labor market. So good for businesses, and we're happy to support this bill. Happy to see the governor soon write it into law. Next, let's talk about House Bill 443. It makes it possible for Idaho's teachers and other school staff to join the health insurance that the state employees already enjoy. This bill was sent with unanimous support through the House and Senate to the governor's desk. It passed effortlessly with bipartisan support, and the Chamber sees this as an important piece of legislation to take care of our teachers' health and improve teacher recruitment and retention. Next is House Bill 442. The Chamber opposed 442 this week, which was sponsored by Representatives Palmer and Ruckty. It was referred to the House Business Committee, where it was reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. This legislation amends Section 55307 of the Idaho Code to clarify that local governments may not control or regulate rents, fees, or deposits when leasing a private residential property. Currently, local governments are only prohibited from controlling rent. This legislation would add fees and deposits to the list of local governments could not regulate or control. The Chamber opposed to allow local governments the abilities to decide. The City of Boise, working with key stakeholders, including nonprofits, have their own regulations on this matter. The Policy Committee decided to oppose this legislation to give communities the ability to come to their own conclusions on the matter. This will be brought before a House vote on Monday. And we'll look forward to seeing the results there. Next, House Bill 444, co-sponsored by Representatives Julianne Young and Ryan Kirby and Bruce Skog, provides entrepreneurs immunity from litigation if a customer believes that they've contracted COVID-19 at their place of business. First passed in 2020, this bill extends the sunset date for litigation to July 1st, 2023. The bill passed the House unanimously and was referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee on February 1st. It appears to be on the fast track to become a law again this year. The Chamber supports this bill to protect our members from unnecessary litigation. Next, we move to House Bill 450, brought by the Idaho Department of Labor, passed the House this week on a one vote shy of being unanimous. It was assigned to the Senate Commerce and Human Resource Committee on the 2nd of February. The bill suspends unemployment rates for the next 2 years. Entrepreneurs will benefit from Governor Little's foresight, investing $64 million in the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund to the tune of $200 million. The Chamber supports this legislation to save small businesses on unemployment insurance costs. House Bill 464 was brought by Representatives Jason A. Monks and Bruce Skog, who co-sponsored House Bill 464. We support this as a chamber. It makes an employee injury action after a required vaccination for workers' compensation. That being said, if you receive a shot, there's an adverse health effect. Instead of having to take care of this in court, it brings you into the workers' compensation pool, which avoids litigation. Since vaccine-related injuries are statistically de minimis, it will not impact our worker compensation rates. And so it was on February 1st, it was reported out of the House Commerce and Human Resource Committee with a due pass recommendation. And again, we support this bill as a Chamber of Commerce. House Bill 472 was brought by the Idaho State Tax Commission. This legislation is an annual update for the state to conform to federal tax code. The Chamber supports this housekeeping bill to help businesses in their tax preparation. The bill passed the House on February 2nd and now advances to the Senate. House Bill 510 was brought by Representative Doug Okonowitz. It was reported to the House Committee on Revenue and Taxation on February 2nd. This bill has no fiscal impact to the general fund, local unit of government, or state tax revenue, as it changes how a taxpayer reports paying state income tax for the purpose of a federal income tax deduction. The Chamber supported this legislation last year and continues to support this correction. Next is Senate Bill 1239. Senator Jim Guthrie sponsors this bill, and it was reported to the Senate Senate Committee on State Affairs on January 27th. This bill amends existing law that makes it so the chamber, or not the chamber, the legislature should convene on the last Friday of March, or by then. It allows for exemptions in cases of emergency, but after the legislative session drug out so long last year, the chamber likes the idea of having a fixed date for the legislature to set a goal to be out by, so we support this bill brought by Senator Guthrie. Next is Senate Bill 1242, the Empowering Parents Grant Program. It establishes this grant program and which would provide $1,000 per student or $3,000 per family to parents and students to help COVID-related learning loss. Available for families with an adjusted gross income that is at or below $60,000 a year, and then offered to families earning up to $75,000 a year if everyone else has finished using the fund. The program will use $50 million of ARPA funding, which comes from the federal government, the ARPA Act. It would require a general fund investment of $1 million that would pay for the cost to administer the program. The Chamber supports this effort to help take care of our kids that have suffered from school disruptions as related to the COVID pandemic. So kudos to these wonderful legislators for looking at a way to help kids. Senate Bill 1247 is a bill that was brought by the Office of the State Board of Education. And the best way to explain it is through an example. CASA is a career technical education school on the western end of the valley. In Idaho tax code, it is recognized as a cooperative service agency. 6 school districts send kids there to learn how to weld and other trades. It's a cooperative program where all the districts pitch in to run the school. There's a solid sense of buy-in from all those member schools and districts and ownership as a result of this activity. The bill amends Idaho code to allow cooperative service agencies to receive appropriations. Prior to that, they did receive appropriations, but as the code was written, they weren't supposed to. Without this authority, schools like CASA would have to be taken over by one school district, which would weaken the collaboration between the other 5 districts in the case of CASA. The Chamber supports this amendment to allow districts the flexibility to deliver education at a ground level perspective and give the legislature the legal framework to continue to fund them. Senate Bill 1247 corrects an error in last year's House Bill 389, so that expiring urban renewal districts come into local property tax budgets at 80%, and that 80% is not subject to an 8% cap. It also closes an unintended loophole regarding the use of foregone balances in property tax budgets. Urban renewal districts are a very important economic tool for our communities. They allow cities and counties to make improvements to parts of town to accommodate for economic growth. Improvements are paid by increased economic value of developed land, and growth pays for growth. Districts can close in 20 years or earlier when the increased property values have paid for the improvements. At that time, the funds that are used to pay for those improvements can move to the community's general fund and allow them to lower tax burdens of their communities, pay for more services, and save for future projects. The Chamber supports this bill as an improvement to a bill that the Chamber opposed last year. There's still a lot of work to be done here, and as a Chamber, we're always very concerned about the legislature weakening the powers of urban renewal districts and communities to help growth pay for growth. So we'll continue to monitor this, but as far as improving a bill that just didn't do what it tried to do last year. This definitely fixes some of those problems, and we support fixing those problems. Now that's everything for Advocacy in Action this week. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your interest in these issues. As always, it is a privilege to represent the small business community via the Chamber of Commerce. We're grateful for your membership and what it allows us to do to advocate on your behalf.